The morning air on the training ground was sharp and unforgiving, slicing through the rows of recruits like an invisible blade, testing not just their physical endurance but the strength of their minds and their capacity to remain composed under constant scrutiny. The cracked pavement beneath their boots reflected years of relentless footsteps, each imprint a testament to the countless individuals who had come before, each trying to survive the same unyielding routine. A faint mist hung over the ground, clinging to uniforms and drifting across the faces of recruits, accentuating the tension that seemed to hover over every movement, every breath. There was an almost tangible weight to the silence, broken only by the occasional snap of boots or the distant whistle of wind through the training structures, as though the environment itself were complicit in the rigorous discipline being demanded. The recruits' shoulders were squared, their chins level, and their eyes fixed straight ahead, a display of mechanical perfection achieved only through fear, practice, and the constant pressure to conform. For most, this discipline had been drilled into them over weeks of preparation, leaving no room for hesitation or error. Each recruit carried their private anxieties, doubts, and hopes, hidden behind stoic expressions. A drill sergeant moved like a shadow along the formation, his boots striking the cracked pavement in rhythmic, deliberate beats that echoed across the training ground. Every inch of his posture spoke of experience and hardened discipline, the kind cultivated over decades of service, where intimidation was as much a tool as instruction, and fear was an expected companion to learning. His eyes scanned the line with precision, catching the slightest flicker of movement or hesitation that could betray a recruit's uncertainty. He had a reputation that preceded him, not just within this base but across several training facilities, known for demanding perfection. To the recruits, his very presence was both a warning and a challenge. As he stopped suddenly in front of one recruit, the young black woman whose posture was flawless, it seemed as though the entire air around the formation thickened. The young recruit stood unmoving, her eyes forward, her uniform immaculate, shoulders squared, embodying a discipline honed as a shield against the world's unpredictable cruelties. Every fiber of her being was conditioned to absorb pressure without outward complaint. While the other recruits occasionally shifted or blinked under the sergeant's piercing gaze, she remained resolute. Her calm was a silent assertion that control over oneself often outweighed any external assertion of dominance. The sergeant initially failed to recognize the depth of her composure. To him, she was yet another name on a roster, another individual he could assert his authority over without consequence. He spoke harshly, words sharp and cutting, designed to intimidate rather than instruct. The tension in the air grew denser with each passing second. Each word he uttered a small spark in the volatile atmosphere of authority and submission. Without warning, his hand moved, a slap intended not to harm, but to announce dominance. The sound reverberated across the ground like a gunshot, catching even him slightly off guard. Time seemed to slow, each recruit's heartbeat echoing in their ears. The young recruit absorbed the strike without flinching, jaw tightening subtly, hands at her sides, eyes fixed forward. Shock rippled through the formation, a shared recognition that the line between discipline and humiliation had been crossed. The sergeant stepped back, chest rising and falling, his adrenaline spiking as he realized that authority could be challenged silently. In that fleeting pause, an invisible shift occurred, one that would resonate far beyond the confines of the training ground. The recruits around her stiffened, their peripheral awareness sharpening. No one moved to intervene, no one dared. The energy of collective attention hung heavily in the air, charged with unspoken questions about who truly held power. The sergeant's frustration mounted as he demanded responses she had no obligation to provide. Each attempt to elicit fear or submission highlighted the futility of intimidation against someone who had mastered self-possession. In that microcosm of tension, the rules of authority were being rewritten silently. As the sergeant's eyes narrowed, a subtle unease began to creep into his posture. The young recruit maintained her calm, a silent anchor amid the storm of yelling and authority. Her internal discipline radiated outward, shifting the dynamic in ways invisible yet profoundly consequential. The morning air remained sharp and unforgiving, slicing through the rows of recruits like a blade, testing both physical endurance and mental composure. Boots were aligned with precision on the cracked pavement, back straight and eyes fixed forward, each step measured. The silence was heavy, almost suffocating, broken only by the distant whistle of wind and faint echo of footsteps. Each recruit carried a private storm of anticipation and anxiety behind stoic expressions. Fear had been cultivated as a constant companion that demanded obedience and respect. A drill sergeant stalked the formation like a predator, his boots striking the ground with rhythmic authority, each sound a warning. His presence alone commanded attention, born from decades of service. He moved deliberately, scanning each recruit with a piercing gaze that could detect the slightest hesitation or weakness. Most recruits instinctively lowered their eyes or stiffened, hoping to remain invisible. His reputation preceded him. Whispers of his strict methods circulated before newcomers stepped onto the grounds. When he halted abruptly in front of one recruit, the air seemed to thicken. The young black female recruit stood perfectly still, her uniform immaculate, posture flawless, and expression unwavering. She had trained herself to maintain composure under intense scrutiny, her calm a shield, her silence a statement. While other recruits fidgeted or flinched at the sergeant's presence, she remained unshaken. The sergeant initially underestimated her, assuming her quiet demeanor indicated submission. He spoke sharply, words cutting through the morning air, intended to intimidate. But she responded with nothing more than steadfast composure. Suddenly, the sergeant's hand lashed out in a slap, designed to assert dominance, and the sound echoed across the yard like a gunshot. Time seemed to pause as every recruit absorbed the moment. She did not flinch or recoil, jaw tightened slightly, hands at her sides, eyes forward. The formation felt the weight of the act, recognizing the line between discipline and humiliation had been crossed. The sergeant stepped back, chest rising with adrenaline. In that quiet, tense pause, something irreversible began to move within command. The recruits surrounding them stiffened, their peripheral awareness sharpening. Fear kept them still, but awareness sharpened every sense. The sergeant's frustration grew as he demanded responses she had no obligation to provide. Her calm demeanor rendered his intimidation ineffective. The tension in the air was electric, palpable, and laden with unspoken lessons. This single moment would ripple far beyond the morning drill. The drill sergeant barked commands, attempting to regain control slipping through his fingers. Every attempt to intimidate met with her unwavering composure. The other recruits watched silently, hearts pounding. Her calm presence acted as a counterweight to his aggression. The air was thick with tension, each second stretching longer. The sergeant's eyes darted around, seeking an ally or witness. He circled the young recruit, scrutinizing every subtle movement and detail of her uniform. The formation remained motionless, aware any sound could alter the balance. Her silence was deliberate, refusing to give him a reaction. Each word he shouted bounced off a wall of resolve. Tension escalated further, drawing attention of senior personnel. The air seemed charged, waiting for the inevitable shift. A slight frown crossed the sergeant's face as he realized his tactics were failing. The young recruit stood rooted, unaffected by his aggression. Sweat formed on his brow from the adrenaline of losing control. Around them, recruits exchanged subtle glances. His authority, once absolute, appeared fragile. He took a deep breath, attempting to regain composure. He barked another command, sharper and louder, attempting a response that still did not come. Her eyes remained forward, a portrait of discipline and strength. The formation absorbed the tension like a living entity. His frustration grew as control was no longer simply rank-based. Around the training ground, whispers of unease began to circulate. Even those accustomed to his methods sensed the morning had shifted. Time stretched as he attempted more aggressive tactics, each met with her calm. The recruit's anticipation heightened, muscles tensed, breaths shallow. He slammed his fist against his leg to assert authority. She did not flinch, embodying restraint and resilience. The dynamic transformed, with power no longer flowing as expected. Every recruit sensed the lasting impact of this lesson. His frustration became visible, movements sharp and erratic, betraying lost control. She remained composed, absorbing every shouted order. Recruits recognized the significance, understanding a single act of discipline could challenge norms. The air grew heavy, tension hanging thick. His tactics revealed their limitations against silent determination. The moment carried a profound gravity. Her silence spoke louder than any command, asserting authority through discipline rather than rank. The sergeant's aggression highlighted his inability to dominate. Each second she maintained posture reinforced the power of self-control. Other recruits sensed authority could be challenged silently. The ground seemed charged, every motion observed. Even the wind seemed to pause. He barked, shouted, and gestured, yet provocation remained fruitless. Her gaze never wavered, embodying patience and strength. The formation sensed a test of character as well as discipline. His tactics had failed, leaving him unsettled. The presence of the recruit redefined boundaries of influence. Silence, once passive, now carried authority. Subtle murmurs spread among recruits, recognizing the weight of what occurred. The sergeant, though present, seemed diminished. She remained a model of discipline, showing respect and authority are earned. The formation seemed transformed, courage existing without aggression. Observers noted the shift, aware of potential implications. The morning was marked by dignity and restraint. As tension dissipated, the recruits realigned, the lesson remaining clear. Her composure rewrote expectations, showing power through discipline and patience. The sergeant attempted normalcy, balance permanently shifted. Each individual carried the weight of witnessing resilience. The day continued, nothing felt the same. The unspoken message had been delivered. By the end of morning, the sergeant retreated inward, reconsidering approach. The recruit remained steadfast, unaffected by confrontation. Authority and respect were redefined subtly. Air remained charged with quiet respect. Training grounds seemed transformed, echoing new power dynamics. Every recruit understood lessons of resilience. One final assertion of authority fell flat against unwavering calm. Words echoed hollow, bouncing off disciplined resolve. Recruits sensed a new understanding taking root. Presence redefined influence within the formation. The sergeant revealed strain of losing control. Silence conveyed more authority than shouted orders. Around them, recognition spread subtly among recruits. Tactics were exposed as flawed against composure. She demonstrated respect earned, not demanded. Formation transformed, understanding courage without aggression. Observers noted shift, recognizing implications. The morning had changed, a silent revolution of dignity. As the morning concluded, the young recruit prevailed through composure, patience, and discipline. The sergeant's authority subtly recalibrated, intimidation ineffective. Each recruit understood resilience and dignity command respect. Lessons extended beyond physical training, highlighting mental fortitude. The recruits dispersed, weight of morning lingering. The training ground, though unchanged, had been permanently altered by her display of courage and discipline.